Hi there, in this video we're going to make this rather hypnotic repeating pattern in Adobe Illustrator. We're going to look at some more advanced features in this video, also do things like this where we get it to kind of map around. That's meant to be a pocket, okay, it's a terrible pocket. But this as well where we're going to pull it and really kind of warp it. All right, we'll show you how to do that now in Illustrator. All right, so first up, open up patterns.ai. Okay, they're in your exercise files. Now you don't have to, these are just some shapes we're going to use as an example. You can totally use your own. You can't use these particular ones for any other work because they are stock library images made by the handsome Robert Phillip, spelled F-I-L-I-P. Okay, so you can go to stock.adobe.com and buy those if you want to use them. And what we're going to do is we're going to select them all and just kind of move them off to the edge. Okay, and we're going to build our very first kind of repeating tile like you saw at the beginning there. We're just going to kind of make some sort of, I don't know, some sort of thing. Okay, playing with a layer order and just getting started. Now, my advice always is to not spend too long kind of doing it here, is to jump straight into the pattern tool. Okay, because you'll find that things just look different once they're actually getting repeated. So get started here, get some sort of thing going. Okay, and once you're ready, select them all. And you're going to go to this thing here, okay, window. This is the most insignificant name, but most awesome tool. It's called Pattern Options. Okay, you'd never click it. But this option, this thing opens and doesn't look like it's usable. Click on this option, say Make Pattern. It's a bit of a weird one to get going. Cool, it says it's put a swatch in my swatches panel over here. You can kind of see a tiny version of it here in my swatches panel. So now is the pattern making time. We're going to give ours a name. We're going to call ours retro. Okay. A couple of things before we start playing around with the sizes and widths and things is that I don't like it when it dims these extra copies. Just turn that off. I like to see it in actual fact. The other things we'll turn off and on is we'll leave the tile edge on and we'll turn the size tile to art off, move with art on. Just follow me, I'll explain it when we get out of here why we want to do all these things. Okay, so turn all those on and off to match mine. And now we're going to play around with this, the important part. You know, which of these kind of like ways, there's no right or wrong way. I end up always using hex though, hex by row or column. Gives me the best kind of feel for what I want, but doesn't matter. Just find something that works for you. Okay, I'm going to start by hex by column. And now what I want to do is decide kind of, there's two things I can do. Say I want it to come in tighter, it's easy to use this tool here, the pattern tile tool. Click on that, and I'm going to grab one of the corners, hold shift, okay, and just kind of shrink it down so that it kind of resizes and gets in tighter again. Okay, up to you. I'm going to undo, didn't like that. Okay, but that's the way to do it. What I'm going to do is just kind of start rearranging this stuff to kind of start maybe looking better. Okay, start filling this gap better. You can play around with size and scale just like you're working in Illustrator. Okay. Now you can also bring other new parts in, so you don't have to kind of really decide at the beginning. Let's say what you want to do up there, it's kind of weird, right? Click on done to kind of get out of here, and a couple of weird things happen. Is like, oh, it's all gone. Okay, these things here aren't the pattern. They're just kind of like, these guys are useless now. Well, not useless, but we don't need them anymore. Let's say we draw something else and we draw an ellipse and we draw, I steal the colors from this. Okay, I'm going to draw a couple of them and just steal the colors. Okay, pretty exciting, Dan. Nice work. I'm going to copy them, okay, and they're useless now again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into that swatch. And you just double click it over here in your swatches panel. Okay, and it comes back to life. You're inside kind of like a no man's land in here. Cool, and now I can paste them in. Okay, I could have actually just drawn them in here, couldn't I? Yep. Okay, I'm doing this. Why? Because I just want to fill in, there's just some no man's land gaps here. Okay, then I just want to kind of put in, you can play with the layer order. Yeah, getting happy with that one. So once you're happy with everything, there's a couple of things we need to do. Let's click done. Let's apply it now because that actually doesn't exist anywhere. I'm going to grab the rectangle tool. I'm going to grab a nice big rectangle to cover the background. Okay, and connect there. Mine by default has filled it. Yours might not. You might click on this as well. You might be like, yours might be filled with say white, and you might click on this swatch to fill it and you go fill. I do this all the time. Can you see it's actually filled the stroke? Okay, there's a tiny pattern around the outside. So make sure the fill here has no stroke. Okay, sorry, the stroke has no stroke and the fill is this guy. Okay, probably do it over here, Dan. It's just easier. Click on fill, stroke, have no stroke. All right, some of those options I kind of talked about earlier, let's discuss those and what they mean. One of the options that says resize to tile art, it just means that when I resize this, okay, it resizes, it comes along for the ride. If you have that ticked, it will try and stay the right size. And that's fine, okay? There might be a reason why you want that, but it doesn't really matter because you can do it afterwards. Let's have a little look at that. Say there's kind of two uses. Let's say this is a repeating pattern, and say you're a fashion designer and you want to resize something down. Say you're making a pocket or an insert, something smaller, but you don't want the pattern to resize because it can't, because it's the fabric pattern and it's done. You can't resize it, right? So what you can do is you can turn it on and off by going to Window and going to transform. Okay, and in here, there's some sneaky options in the burger menu, okay, and it's this group here. So by default, it's on both. It means when I transform the object, which is the rectangle, it transforms the pattern as well. But you can say, actually, I just want to transform, when I'm transforming, just the object, okay? And when I scale it down, you can see it just scales the object, not the pattern. So that might be useful for you. The only trouble with that is that it's on forever. Okay, so you got to make sure just turn it off. I go in and turn it off again because, yeah, it causes, later on you get a headache. You're like, what's going on? Okay, so turn that back on. The other one is transform object pattern only. Say I wanted to resize the pattern but not the box. Okay, this doesn't do what you expect. Okay, it does both again. You're like, It's what they kind of mean is that you have to transform the pattern only. You have to use this little box here. So the height and width here, let's say I want to divide it by 2. Okay, I'm going to click in this other box. You can see I've divided the height and the width by 2, but the object hasn't changed, just the pattern. Make sure as well when you're doing that, that it's linked. Okay, so it does the height and width together. Same with rotation in here. I might do 20, and because I've got that option ticked on just the pattern, it's only applying to that. Okay, so I'm going to click it back to both. Another thing you might do is, at the beginning, we didn't put a background color. We're letting can you see the white of the page fill the gap? Okay, and you can see here, there's now space behind it. Okay, the gray's coming through. Now I find instead of coloring it before you get into, all you need to do is grab this and put fill color, let's say of pink, and put it behind it, and add that when you create your tile. Okay, that will add a background color to it. I find it's easier, probably. I like to have a separate box separately, okay, to kind of show the stock color or the color behind it. Doesn't really matter, I guess. Yeah. All right. Other thing I want to do is let's have a little look at, I'm going to go Shift O, okay, and to get my artboard tool, hold down the Alt key, drag out, or Option key on a Mac to get a new artboard. If you're not, the artboard tool's there. And what I'd like to do now is, first of all, I want to get rid of the pink background. Goodbye. I want to kind of start distorting this pattern. Let's say that you are doing it for a mock-up of your pattern on something, or say you are a designer, fashion designer, and you want to kind of move it around the shape of a model. Okay, so let's look at both kind of, a couple of ways of doing that. One of the easy ways is, let's say you just want to distort it. Let's go to Object, go to Envelope Distort, and we're going to, one of the easy ones is make with warp. Okay, so if you've got a kind of really simple shape, it's going to stress your machine out a little bit, but you can see it's kind of warped it this way. If one of these shapes is going to work for you, okay, flags and waves and things like that, then you can just use this option. Okay, and you can see it's kind of destroying it's kind of changing your pattern. If that doesn't work for you, let's say you want to really control what it does. Let's do two ways. I'm going to use my curvature tool. Okay, so I'm going to create, say, a pocket, and I'm going to draw, make sure a fill is not our pattern. That's going to freak us out. So it doesn't really matter what color this is. Double click for a corner, click once for a curve, double click for a corner. What we'll do, bit of a curve here, click once for a curve, double click for a corner, double click for a corner, double click, click once for a curve. There you go, awesome. So we've got our ugly looking pocket. Okay, that's really bad. Anyway, you get the idea. You can do a couple of things. Let's look at two options. So Shift 0, okay, to get my artboard tool, make another duplicate. So the first option is, you might get away with this, is select the two objects. Your pocket needs to be at the front. Okay, so select both of them, go to Object, go to Envelope Distort, and there's an option that says Make with Top Object. And it just kind of tries to jam it in there. Again, a bit stressful. Okay, and that might be enough for you. Okay, and you just let the shape do the work, and that could be quite cool. Say you want a bit more control, what you might do is select on this background shape, and we're going to go to Object. We're going to go to Object, Envelope, Distort, and there's one that says Make with Mesh. Okay, this is like full custom. Okay, 3x3. The more mesh you have, the more detail you can control, but it's a little fiddlier. Okay, so like a gradient mesh, looks exactly the same. So I'm going to apply it first. Again, quite a hardcore pattern. Okay, if yours is even more hardcore and your machine is old, it's going to take a while. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to bring, weirdly I can send him to the back, and that's really fast. If I try and bring the pattern to the front, it spends ages doing it. Okay, what I want to do is actually just lower the opacity of this. Don't lower the opacity of the pattern before you make it a mesh. Okay, it's really hard to turn the opacity back up. It's easy this way. Okay, so I just want to turn it down for a little bit while I play around with it. I'm going to use the white arrow tool when I'm working with the mesh. Okay, and what I might do to get started is I'm going to select these 3 points. Now, it's really hard because I picked a blue. I've got a blue kind of pocket, and I've got a blue kind of textile, and there's also blue on this layer. So it's a little bit hard. You'll hopefully work it out. So I've selected just these 3 guys. Okay, 4 people. Okay, I'm going to drag it in a little bit and give it a second. Okay, and you can see it's kind of getting scrunched up at the side there. I'll do the same for this side. So this is just giving you the kind of customized shape. You can kind of see what's happening. I can drag it out here. So I'm going to drag it in here, and there's just a lot of fiddling around now to kind of push it the way you want the fabric to fall. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of messing about. So let's say I grab just this one point here and I drag it in. Watch what it affects here, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. You've got these little handles that control it as well. They're a little fiddly. Okay, I'm going to drag them around. There's this guy. It's taking a little bit of time now. My machine's pretty hardcore and it's still taking a lot of time. So we're kind of doing 2 things that are really kind of extreme. One is the pattern and the other is using an envelope mesh. Cool, so I'm not going to spend too much more time, but there's a lot of just grabbing these anchor points. Maybe the mesh is too complex. I put 3x3. Maybe if you're doing this now, try just 2x2. It might give you just enough control to be able to, watch this. I'm going to really distort it. I'm breaking it, but say if you want a bit of a pinched fabric, or you're matching, you've got kind of like stock images and you want to match the kind of roll and folds of the fabric, you can start mushing this around. When you're done, grab it with the black arrow, have it selected, go up to the opacity and crank it back up. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is send it to the back. Again, I should have brought the shape to the front for some reason. Okay, I'm going to make sure he gets cropped in. Okay, so now with them both are selected, we're going to hit Command 7 on a Mac or Control 7 on a PC. Okay, and that just kind of sticks it in the shape. Okay, and that's my fabric thing. All right, one last thing you might do is, let's say that you're actually designing this and you want to change the colors that are used in here. Okay, a nice way to do it, black arrow, I've got it selected, go up to Edit, go down to Edit Colors, and we did this properly in an earlier tutorial. We're going to give you the short version here. Okay, so recolor artwork, okay, and jump to the Edit. Okay, link all the colors, and then you can kind of drag this around, move it in and out, kind of expands them richer and cooler. Okay, and you can see down the back, in the background there, I'm changing the colors, making them terrible. Good work, Dan. Okay, so you might have some color options once you've got it in here, or maybe just some hue changes, or you get the fabric and you're like, man, it's not quite reflected well in my design. I might have to adjust it. Cool. If you want to go into more recoloring artwork, I go to that in a full earlier tutorial. All right, that is patterns. Hope you learned something new, and yeah, all right, let's get on to the next video.